Back with us on the SportsMax Zone, Australian greats Shane Warne and Adam Gilchrist have criticised Tim Paine for his handling of key moments in the 2-1 Test series defeat to India. Paine's leadership has increasingly come under scrutiny after the Aussies frittered away advantageous positions in the final 2 tests of the series. He has also been mocked on social media for his "see you at the Gabba" comment to Ravi Ashwin during the 3rd test at the SCG. Warne and Gilchrist were on commentary duties at the Gabba test, and this is what the legendary spinner said to his former teammate. He said, "I think at times their tactics haven't been good enough, and I suppose that's got to come down to Tim Paine as captain. It's not just Tim Paine's fault. The bowlers are allowed to say, 'Tim, I want to do this.' So it's a combination between the bowlers and the captain. But at the end of the day, you are captain. You have to take responsibility. He'll be disappointed," Warne said. Well, Tim Paine was elevated to the captaincy after Steve Smith's role in the ball tampering disgrace on the tour of South Africa in March 2018. The 36-year-old has led the Aussies in 23 tests, winning 11, drawing 5, and losing 7. He has presided over 4 series defeats. That's the ill-fated tour of South Africa, away to Pakistan, and here at home to India. 3 of those series defeats, though, happened at the start of his captaincy. Now, under Paine, pun intended, the Aussies drew the series to retain the Ashes against England in 2019, while scoring wins at home to Sri Lanka, Pakistan, and New Zealand. But the question emerges, how damaging will this series defeat be for Tim Paine as both captain and player? And we invite the comment of Fazir Mohammed. Fazir?
I suppose the knee-jerk reaction would be that he has to go. And many people say, sack him. And if you go the way of social media, if you go the way of the former players, you'll say that's the inevitable thing to do. But some of the same former players were writing off India after the first test match. And it's always good that we remember these things, that it's nice to beat up on someone in the moment, but often you've got to step back and take a look at the bigger picture. Because Tim Paine was the one thrown in at the deep end as captain in a really embarrassing situation for Australian cricket. And yes, in this series, he didn't help his cause either with his gloves, his mouth, or his tactics, and all of it went wrong in the end. At the end of the situation, whether we talk about drop catches or whatever, India were really decimated by injuries, but still lost in a situation where Australia were expected to prevail. I think his position, if not untenable, is going to be under serious question, and that's why I made the point in concluding our last segment, that I think the Australian authorities are going to have a proper post-mortem, not the half-hearted, jokey one that we have in the Caribbean. They're going to have a proper post-mortem, a proper analysis, and determine if Tim Paine is the man to continue for the next assignment in South Africa, if that happens, COVID-19 permitting, or if now is the time for a change.
But I hear you, Fazir, and of course what you say is true, but let's take it from a different angle. Even though the criticism from the former players, it's a bit rich coming from them and their whole assessment of the series. You know, Ricky Ponting said in the Indian press today that he can't believe that India effectively beat the Australians 2-1 at home to win the series, because he's saying in the India team that finished up the series was effectively an A team given the number of absentees. But notwithstanding that, isn't the criticism of Tim Paine turbocharged by the fact that he wasn't a legitimate choice as captain? And perhaps legitimate is a wrong descriptor, but he was a fair weather appointment because of the reasons we've cited about the Australia debacle. And if Australia were picking a captain from all fit and able men, he probably would have been 3rd or 4th option, if an option at all. And the fact of that against the quality of the performance of the team and his own contribution makes him fair game for the kind of criticism he's getting.
Of course he's going to be fair game, but Ricky Ponting, as you said, just to add to that richness, when he lost 3 test matches by an innings against their arch rivals, England in 2010, 2011, he didn't give up the job as captain, even with all the comments that were being made at the time. And that's why I said I'm not saying that point to just simply counteract whatever is being said or to just naturally want to defend Tim Paine. The last thing I want to do is defend an Australian test cricketer for that matter. But the issue is the principle. The fact is that Tim Paine was given the job in a no-win situation. When Steve Smith was caught cheating, David Warner was caught cheating. Cricket Australia was caught trying to cover their backsides for their own gullibility, for their own complicity in the attitude of the Australian cricket team. And Tim Paine was asked to carry the can. And he carried the can and took Australia back to #1 in Test cricket. And even if you say, on the pure basis of merit and individual cricketers and their abilities and so on, that he would be second, third, or maybe even fourth in the pecking order of a captaincy, it's not as straightforward as that. He was the one who was asked to take on the job when Australian cricket was a laughing stock because of Sandpaper Gate, and he did a reasonable job, well, in fact, a better than reasonable job in taking Australian cricket back to #1. So you can't simply dismiss that on the basis of all of the memes and whatever else about see you at the Gabba and so on. Yes, it backfired, but it backfired on every prominent former Australian cricketer that you could name after the Adelaide debacle of India's capitulation. So I would say that yes, his position is definitely under review, but I don't see it automatic that he'll be sacked.
Because I was going to come to that after all that to ask you if Tim Paine is the future of Australian captaincy. Because if you're agreeing that there will need to be an overhaul, well, an overhaul is an overhaul. They can't have a qualified overhaul. If it's a root and branch matter, or if it's window dressing, if there's some change, are you saying that the Australia that will emerge from this chastening defeat, does that Australia, you believe, deserve Tim Paine at the forefront?
I think they do, depending on the circumstances, because again, it might just be as an issue of finding out from the players their levels of focus, what were their issues during the course of this series, a proper assessment with each individual player and understanding the entire situation. Are we saying automatically that you go back to Steve Smith as Australian captain? Are we saying that David Warner should automatically be considered as captain of Australia? Are we comfortable looking on from the outside to say that these are individuals in whom you can entrust the future and the prestige and the presumed stature of Australian cricket, if we're talking about it being important to them enough, this whole thing about the baggy green and so on? So yes, at the age of 36, he is closer to the end than the beginning of his test career, and no doubt his captaincy. But whether or not there are other players there who can be seen as potential leaders for the foreseeable future, that's another issue, and it's really up to the selector. So I don't see it automatic that he'll be sacked at all.
Yeah, I think I'm understanding what you're saying, Faz, because although the minuses for Tim Paine appear to outweigh the pluses, we have to remember that he was man of the match for the first test when they won in Adelaide, and his batting average for the series was 40, which was bettered only by Labuschagne and Steve Smith. So the Australian authorities have a lot of thinking to do, because there were a lot of bad points about his series, and they may very well replace him. But I agree with you that it may not be automatic. But thanks a lot, Faz.
Sure, and maybe the message should be at the end of the post-mortem for Australia to just shut up and play the cricket.
Thanks, Faz. We'll be in touch. Yes, so George, I think I understand what Fazir is saying, and I'm not sure what the Australian cricket authorities will do, because this series defeat will hurt them a lot. And there'll be a huge temptation to take the captaincy away from Tim Paine, given his shortcomings in so many ways. But Faz just adequately outlined some of the pluses that he has built up over the past 2 years that he has led this side. And even in this series, as I said, he was man of the match for the first test, and his batting performance was third best in the entire series for the Aussies. So it's going to be a tough one for the Aussies, because I know his captaincy was arguably poor, but I'm not sure if one series will make the Australian authorities, Cricket Australia they're called, make a decision to cut away from him.
Arguably poor, Whitaker. You're being very kind this week. Let me tell you this. Name me the test captain who, going into the third test, and if we were to treat the players as weapons, name me the test captain now or in the past who would have chosen Ajinkya Rahane's weapons over Tim Paine's weapons. None.
No one, yeah.
All right, so we agreed there. Name me the test captain who would have chosen the Tim Paine weapons, who would not have chosen the Tim Paine weapons at the Gabba of all places. Everything was in their favor, Australia. And of course, records are made to be broken. And of course, teams play inspired cricket. And of course, this Indian talent pool runs deep. But I'm saying, lads, The argument will be, and perhaps Tim Paine may need to hire Fazir Mohammed as his solicitor when he goes to speak with his bosses at Cricket Australia. For the weapons that Tim Paine had at his disposal and for how this series was lost, he has to take the ultimate responsibility. And this is not a cricketing destination that is short of quality leaders like some we know so very well, without calling names. We're talking about Australia here. They can do better than Tim Paine at captain, I believe. And I think they should shake his hand for a job well done since 2018 and ask him to just see if he can make the team as a wicketkeeper batsman.
Yeah, I hear you, George. But remember, too, and Faz pointed it out as well, about this Australian bowling attack being vaunted as the best in the world. And I pretty much question that as well. We spoke in the office today about Mitch Starc. His bowling average for the entire series was 40.23. No, that's not Tim Paine's fault, was it?
Yeah, we're going to the break now, but let me say this to you. The India bowling attack had 9 tests among them and 11 wickets going into the game.
Yes.
They helped to win this game against an Australia bowling attack.
Yes.
260 odd tests and over 1,000 test wickets. Argument done, Lance.
Yeah, because the Indians perform better. So that is not necessarily a mark against Tim Paine.
It is a mark against Tim Paine because it is, remember, Ajinkya Rahane got maximum out of his greenhorns.
Yes.
Tim Paine didn't get a tune out of his season campaigners, and that's the problem. All right? As we go to break, NBA basketball coming up. How did the Nets get on with Kevin Durant and James Harden against Giannis and the Bucks? And what about the Jazz? What about the Jazz? They're playing well this season, and they're playing on SportsMax Zone today. Yeah, I was searching for the Pelicans, Ricardo. You're a good lad. Jazz Pelicans, 9 p.m., 10 ECT. SportsMax, the NBA. It's where it lives.